welcome back. I'm Dr. Columbus Batiste. Here's the truth. 1 in 8 women, they will face breast cancer in their lifetime. Now, let me be clear. Food isn't going to replace your treatment, but the right plate, it can actually shift your hormones, calm your inflammation, and improve your insulin sensitivity in just weeks. That's why today we're actually going to tackle a big debate. It might actually get me into some problems, a little bit of the frying pan. Keto versus plant-based for breast cancer. I'm going to give you my verdict and break down some of the science in plain English and share the top foods that you can start eating tonight. Now, look, I know you've heard the noise from all the influencers out there. Keto starves everything versus plants, they cure everything. Now, if you're trying to prevent cancer, support yourself through treatment, or just stay strong after therapy, you don't need more hype. You need an actual plan. Something doable, something safe, something that is backed by real research in humans, not just what worked in lab mice. So here's a quick question for you. If your body were a city, is your current diet making traffic flow smoothly, or is it causing massive pileups? So I'll tell you, I want you to think of your metabolism like a city with traffic lights that are controlling everything. A whole food plant-based diet? Now that's like upgrading the entire grid. More fiber means more butyrate production. You remember butyrate? That's the stuff your gut bacteria make from fiber, which calms inflammation, improves the signal timing for hormones like insulin and insulin growth-like factor. Traffic begins to flow beautifully. Now keto, on the other hand, it's like closing down lots of side streets to force everyone, all the cars, onto a different route. Now, sure, you lose those insulin spikes and lose weight in the short term, but here's the catch. With very low fiber and way fewer plant chemicals we call phytochemicals, right? I'll tell you, you're losing a lot of traffic cops that keep inflammation and hormones in check. That leads to bottlenecks. What's the bottom line? Listen, for breast cancer prevention in survivorship, the strongest human data we have, it favors a whole food plant-based diet. Now, keto can absolutely help a person lose weight, although it may be more muscle than it is fat. And it may actually help improve some metabolic profiles briefly because it moves you away from the standard American diet, the greatest enemy out there in terms of ultra-processed foods. It's embedded with multiple food substances that may cause harm and thwart your ultimate goals of being cancer-free. And it's not what the guidelines recommend for prevention or survivorship. So I want you to drop a little note in the comments if you want your metabolic traffic lights working for you instead of against you. All right, here's what the evidence tells us about food in plain English. The top 3 foods we need to be eating. Number 1, vegetables and fruits. Now, especially the cruciferous vegetables, and those that are rich in carotenoids, because guess what? Higher intake of cruciferous vegetables, I want you to think broccoli, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and yellow or orange vegetables. They're packed with carotenoids, and it's linked to a lower breast cancer risk and better survival rates in survivors. So we're talking about for each extra 100 grams per day. Now, that's roughly half of a cup. It's giving you a 3% lower risk. As a matter of fact, in large studies like the Nurses Health Study, eating more fruits and vegetables, especially those cruciferous ones and yellow and orange varieties, it was tied to a lower risk of aggressive subtypes like your estrogen receptor negative and your HER2 enriched cancers. Now, we're seeing hazard ratios from 6% to 21%, which means that a reduction for every 2 servings per day. So among survivors, the higher vegetable intake after diagnoses, particularly those green leafy vegetables, you know I love those, right? Because they're great for the heart, great for the endothelium, that lining of the vessels, and lowering the blood pressure. But these green leafy vegetables and cruciferous ones, they're associated with a 16 to 18% lower all-cause mortality, and that's huge. Now, what's the second thing we all need to be eating on a regular basis, especially if your goal is to stay away from breast cancer, either to survive it, make it through therapy, or never to get in the first place? Second one is fiber, right? Number 2 is fiber. Fiber from whole grains, legumes, and nuts, because guess what? The dietary fiber means less estrogen recirculating inside your body and better insulin sensitivity. So there are groupings of studies called meta-analyses, and they show that for every 10 grams of fiber per day, it's linked to a 13% lower all-cause mortality in survivors. Translation? Listen. Fiber literally helps clear the traffic by improving hormone balance and glucose control. All right, what's the third thing on the top 3 lists that you need to be eating every single day? Soy foods. I said the soy is actually good for you. So even if you move beyond population level stage and you start digging in, we know that whole food versions, not high dose pills, not soy isolates, in populations that regularly eat soy, they consume 10 plus milligrams of isoflavones per day. That's about half a cup of tofu or 1 cup of soy milk. They're linked to 25 to 35% lower breast cancer risk. But here's the thing, a 25% lower recurrence among survivors. That's huge. So how does it work? Well, the isoflavones, they're kind of like weak phytoestrogens that can actually block your body's stronger natural estrogens at the receptor level by raising the SHBG. Now, that's the binding protein that keeps the hormones in check and support better estrogen clearance. So the safety note, listen, I need you to make sure you stick with whole foods, whole soy foods like tofu and tempeh and edamame. As a matter of fact, make sure it's organic, non-GMO if possible. It will be on the label, and soy milk. Skip those high-dose supplements, all of the soy isoflavones. You don't need those. Now, listen, if we look at a quick metabolic tune-up example, there was a great study I love to quote because it's comparable to what we put folks through for their heart. It's a mixture of nutrition and exercise. So in this study, they looked at postmenopausal women who followed a very low-fat, high-fiber, plant-based diet with daily exercise for just 14 days. That was really short. So the researchers probably were unsure what the results were they were going to see in such a short period of time. But here's what they saw. Their blood showed lower estrogen, lower insulin, and lower insulin growth-like factor 1. Now, what's even more impressive is that in lab tests, their post-program blood actually slowed the cancer cell growth and it increased the cancer cell death. Catch this. So their blood was able to keep the cancer from growing and actually go ahead and kill the cancer cells compared to their own pre-programmed blood. That's huge. That means that plants plus fiber plus movement made their bodies like bodyguards go into overdrive. And they were not allowing the cancer cells or cancer growth signals to really impact the individuals anymore. And that was just in 2 weeks. That's biology you can feel and measure fast. So listen, we need to build all this together into solutions, right? So if we're building this, we have to build it. We have to make sure we get on a regular basis, focus on what we are eating for our health. And that means those cruciferous vegetables, the broccoli, the Brussels sprouts, the kale, the cabbage. Even if you say you don't like it, keep trying to eat it until your taste buds change and you will start to crave it. Get those leafy greens in, the spinach, the collards, the arugula. Get the carotenoid veggies, the carrots and sweet potatoes, the ones that are orange and yellow, the squash, the red and orange peppers. And then sweeten it up a little bit. Get your blueberries and raspberries and strawberries. Don't forget about the beans, legumes, and chickpeas. And always add in your whole grains, your nuts and seeds, as well as those soy products because they have been shown to be extremely beneficial for prevention and to prevent reoccurrence. So these foods will cover your fiber, your phytonutrients, your healthy fats, your plant protein, all supporting better hormone balance, immunity, and insulin control. So now the second stage or second tip is we got to put this into a plate, right? That's a grocery list. Now we have to put this on a plate. And that means that you need half your plate with veggies, a quarter of your plate with legumes, and a quarter with the plant protein like tofu or tempeh. Now you can make sure you don't forget about the important stuff. 1 cup of beans, a tablespoon of flaxseed, 2 servings of soy, your cup of berries, and then you have to top it off with a little bit of movement. So it's not eating, but you have to move something at a regular basis because that's where the power of that study showed is that combination of the movement and the nutrition played an exceptional role in terms of cancer prevention. So we have to learn that we need to break these chains of disease. And I'll tell you, the thing that is holding together the chains of disease is our nutrition, ultra-processed foods, the red and processed meats, the sugary drinks, and the alcohol. These are the things. So we need to go ahead and get rid of those. And lastly, if you are a heavy animal protein consumer, listen, and you've lost weight, your insulin is improved, that's a great job. But now it's time to focus on foods that will actually go to work to protect you, right? So we have to focus on what we are eating for our health and adding in the non-starchy veggies at every single meal, boosting up the fiber and the chia and the flax, the hemp seeds. I want you to shift away from saturated fats that are common inside animal proteins towards nuts and seeds and olive oil and avocado. Start moving away from those animal proteins that are likely causing some harm and shift towards a whole food plant-based diet in a manner that you can stick with. Because listen, if you're in the prevention mode, overnight oats, berries, and flax for breakfast, for lunch, a bowl with quinoa, black beans, kale, salsa, my favorite, and dinner, tofu, broccoli, stir fry over barley or black or brown rice, guess what? You're hitting on all cylinders. Because listen, if you're currently receiving chemo or radiation and your appetite is kind of dipping, I want you to try a smoothie, right? Get soy milk and berries and spinach, ground flax, and keep up some gentle movement, some gentle exercise, 10 to 15-minute walks after your meals to keep your blood sugar under control. And I'll tell you what, it'll actually boost your energy. Now, if you're a survivor, I want you to do everything I just mentioned, but here's the key. I need you to make sure that your doctor is working on your behalf. You're the CEO of your body, of your corporation. Make sure your doctor is looking at all the information and tuning up that you have the appropriate nutrients, that you're doing all the things that you need to, because guess what? Food is medicine. And as you begin to move in this direction, your food will transform your body and your medication needs may shift as well. So remember, this is just education alone. You need to make sure you get in with your doctor. All right, what's my verdict on what's the winner here, right? Is it keto or is it plant-based? Now, if you haven't figured it out, let me tell you, it's a whole food plant-based diet. This gives you the broadest, the best supported benefits for breast cancer prevention and survivorship. But here's the bonus, because we know that what's impacted by survivors of cancer, it's heart disease. This dietary eating pattern will also strengthen your heart. It will also strengthen your metabolic health and get you the gains that you're wanting, which is a life that you can live healthfully. Sorry, so I want you to comment below, what's your one change this week? Are you adding in smoothies? Are you adding in the salad? Are you adding in some of the carotenoids and the yellow and the greens and the blues to your diet? This is what you have to do if you want to achieve the health that you want and that you deserve. All right, I want you to remember, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Let's go far together, building healthier hearts, stronger communities, and wipe out cancer once and for all. So like it, share it, send it, save a life. I'll see you next time.